All right, guys, we are live.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Local Client Takeover, Mark Gluckenball and Matt Stack here. Of course, we have Joe Troy with us today. What's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks, guys, for having me. I appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to have you on. Especially, we were just chatting a few minutes prior. You have some really wicked angles for monetization in your lead gen and local markets, and it's definitely going to blow everyone away today, man. So it'll be a good episode for sure. So, just chatting. We talk about ACT in the group a lot. I mean, it's freaking awesome. I always encourage people that aren't super comfortable with sales, go ahead and get some leads going in. Throw the whisper on. Send some leads someone's way. It's a great icebreaker. It warms it up so you can call and say, hey, I'm the guy that sent you the business. But so we talk about that a lot. So where did that come from? What's the history on ACT? Where's it going? You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. So ACT was never really meant for the public. We built ACT out of a necessity for us. And the necessity was we were working with, and it's kind of how we stumbled into lead gen as well. We were working with a company, a service-based company. They were doing appliance repair in, I think we were running like 15 cities for them. We were doing all of their AdWords, and the cost per conversion, I mean, we were getting a boatload of calls, but the cost per conversion was just getting higher and higher in order for us to keep scaling.
Mhm.
It just comes to a point where you're going to have to pay a lot more money in AdWords in order to really scale. And the client was looking at us like, what do we do? We're using call tracking, and so we're like, well, why don't we just duplicate your site? We'll mix it up. We'll change up the site, change up the ads, and we will run another AdWords campaign and funnel you guys all the traffic, right? And you just pay us based on the results. And that's how we kind of stumbled into lead gen, and it went really, really well. I mean, we're sending the client literally, I think the first month was like 3,000 calls, and scaled up over 10,000 calls a month just on the pay-per-call side. And she was already doing 6,000 or 7,000 calls a month on the AdWords side that we were managing for.
Nice.
And so we're just doing a boatload of call volume. Obviously, we understand the importance of call tracking and why, for us to really understand what's going on, for her to be able to understand what part of the marketing is working, how well her people are converting, and she was doing really, really well and using it as a internal kind of sales tool for their team to say, hey, look, Lisa is converting 1 in 2 calls or 1 in 3 calls, and you're only converting 1 in 10. Go study all of Lisa's calls so you can figure out why. So,
Right.
so that's kind of a side of call tracking that a lot of people don't talk about. But essentially, we had tried every call tracking platform under the sun, and the cheaper ones to the more expensive ones, and we knew that there had to be a way that we could save some money. I mean, we were literally spending over 6 figures a year just on call tracking.
Mhm.
And so I turned to my developer and I'm like, what can we do? Like, can't we like just cut out these middlemen? There's got to be an API somewhere where we
Mhm.
can, tap into. And we found Twilio. We found a couple others. Ended up, running with Twilio, and that's kind of how ACT was born. I mean, we basically took our per number fees from $8 to $12 per number to $1, and then the minutes from 8 to 12 cents a minute to a cent or two a minute,
Yeah,
and
can't
literally
beat that.
Awesome.
slash that overnight and literally put all of that money in our pocket.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
so that's
perfect.
kind of how ACT was born. And then we were talking earlier, Matt, kind of about David Sprague a little bit. He came up. David was on my ass for about 90 days. Share it with my group. Share it with my group. Share it with my group. I'm like, no, no, no. Why? I don't want to.
Mhm.
At that point, I wasn't selling anything to marketers. I was just a marketer myself.
Right.
And finally, I'm like, all right, let's give it a shot. And we spent a couple weeks doing tutorials and documentation and opening it up kind of to the world, and the rest is history. I mean, if you look at what ACT first was and what it now is it's not even recognizable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's really good because everyone, says in passing, "Hey, go get a Twilio number and this and that." But anyone that really does this on any type of scale knows if you aren't um, even slightly savvy with development, Twilio can be a pain in the ass.
Why
You
do
know,
the
Yes.
development too? I mean, just
exactly.
use ACT. It's
So
easy.
exactly, it's an awesome solution. So. Yeah, that's really good stuff, man. So you also have a theme.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And I imagine I heard some of your previous stuff. You do a lot with conversions. You're big on making sure your site's converted.
Yeah. Yeah, so definitely, I mean, through running lots of
We're gonna
traffic, I
make.
mean, cutting out a little bit there, but I can talk about the conversion stuff.
Yeah.
I find that don't know kind of what's best practice. Fortunately for us, I mean, our agency side kind of gets neglected now. It runs on somewhat autopilot, but we still manage a couple $100,000 a month in AdWords campaigns for our clients, and then we have all of our lead gen sites, and so we're constantly testing to figure out, kind of what's working and what's not, and we're able to take that data and we're able to put it into a theme that we built, a WordPress theme. To make sure that we could get in all the best practices rather easily instead of kind of starting from scratch every single time.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the things you do on like a local lead gen page to help people convert to call or to opt in?
Yeah, so in terms of design, I mean, there's other things obviously beside design. One of the biggies obviously is just, what's your offer? So I'll give you an example, and this makes a huge difference, and so many people overlook this. They're obsessed with what their site looks like, and they don't really think about what the offer is. And so for dentistry, for example, we have clients in the dental space, and about, I don't know, it's between like 70 and 80% of the people that call in are looking for one thing. Their teeth are like killing them,
Yeah.
and they need help right away. And
Mm-hmm.
so the question always is, if you listen to the calls, is they like self-diagnose themselves. So like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I have a cavity, and I need to know how much it costs to remove it.
Mm-hmm.
What's it cost? Right? And the receptionist will be like, cavities cost $1,400 to fill, and they give them like this crazy answer that, of course, is going to make the other person on the other end just like hang up.
Yeah.
And so the offer that works so well for dentistry is just, all new patients get a free exam, consultation, and x-ray. So you don't have to figure out, or you don't have to pay to figure out what's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that offer crushes it. Without that, without a good offer, you're going to have a hard time converting.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one side of it, and then the other side, kind of best practices in terms of what we put on the pages and kind of how we structure them. We always do a pretty slim header. I see a lot of guys making these logos that are like this freaking big, and they're insane. And obviously, we want to take advantage and get as much of the important information above the fold as possible. So for us, we like to do a logo on the top left, top right, a call to action and a phone number. Right below it, we put in our navigation. Our rule of thumb is just between 3 and 4 menu items in that navigation. If you put too much in there, you're going to give your clients too much opportunity to go browse through your site, and what's above the fold should do most of the converting for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you don't want to give them all those options. You don't want to have a million menus within menus and drop downs and things like that. So keep that navigation bar slim, but also don't put too much shit in it. Don't give your customers or your prospects landing on that site too many choices.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then we found that right below that we put a big banner with a call to action. And so like the dental, the primary banner that they see would be that free exam and consultation.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen all kinds of studies that say that sliders actually decrease your conversions, but I think when done correctly, it can actually work really well. So we like to put our primary offer first in the slider. Then next up, we kind of hit the different verticals that we target. So let's say like we have a roofing site. We put a banner on there specifically targeting residential, and that would come next. And then commercial would be the last banner. So we want to make sure that we speak to everybody that lands on the page and they say, yes, this is right for me.
Mm-hmm.
This company can actually help me.
Mm-hmm.
And then below that, we like to do what we call feature boxes. So we like
Yeah.
to have like 3 or 4 boxes right below the banner. And in those boxes, we do like reviews or testimonials, any type of social proof, any BBB or any type of associations that they're a part of, anything like that, anything that's a conversion booster like that.
Yeah.
And then, that's where it breaks, and, everything else is below the fold.
Yeah. You know what
But
the
everything above the fold, I mean, you really want to focus on the conversions, and it's not. We don't do like anything SEO really above the fold.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. All user experience.
All user experience, and the goal is like they shouldn't even have to scroll.
Hmm.
If we can just get them to land and not scroll, we've done a good job.
Yeah. You're talking about choosing the right offers. Actually, I think I learned this from you. You said to like go to some of the most competitive cities, see what people are doing
Yep.
with PPC. I mean, you don't have to
Yep.
reinvent the wheel.
Yep, exactly. You just want to find out and put yourself in the customer's shoes or the prospect's shoes. If you're, we do a bunch of roofing stuff and we do like water damage. I think you're in that space too.
Hmm.
But I actually was put in the prospect's shoes. I had a leak in my roof. And that forced me to kind of think about what should that offer be. The other thing that you can do is go pick up like around town like the free newspapers that they put like in Publix or your restaurants or
Yeah.
grocery stores, Starbucks, coffee shops, whatever. Go pick up like those little flyers and booklets and look through and look at what the offers are.
Yeah.
Personally, I like doing that like everybody else. I'm on the internet all day long, every day, and so like we get like blindness to it,
Yeah.
and so I'd rather like go sit and have a coffee and kind of take my time looking through it. And for me, that's a little bit more of a creative process and kind of helps me think through the offer.
Yeah. That makes sense.
But we're able to grab a lot of good offers just by looking through the AdWords ads in the big cities, and then going and picking up those like free newspapers or flyers with all the ads in them.
Hmm.
That's awesome stuff.
One thing I want to touch on is how you select a niche. Like, what kind of criteria does your niche have to be a viable option?
So that's a very good question. And I think that my opinion is very different from other people's. It seems like most people say you need a niche with a very high average customer value. People usually assign, hey, at least $1,000 or something like that to it. And I think that that's kind of the wrong way to think. Because just because it's a high average customer value doesn't mean that you're going to be able to get the volume that the business needs and that you need in order to really make a substantial amount of money.
Yeah.
So I personally really love the services space, home services types of offers, AC repair, appliance repair, things like that, where the conversions are just crazy. Like our appliance repair sites continually convert like 66% of prospects into phone calls.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Which is crazy, right? And so because of that, we're able to do a large amount of volume, and the volume makes up for, not the highest average customer value.
Yeah.
So, I think that we have a little bit of a different approach than most people in that regard. So for me, when picking a niche, I don't overthink it. I do something that most people won't do, and I kind of just throw everything against the wall and see what sticks. Okay, so I'll put up a site in a bunch of different verticals that I'm potentially interested in, get it ranking. I mean, we all know the cost of getting these sites to rank is absolutely shit. Total investment, what, maybe $200 for a site?
Yeah.
Right? $200 to figure out if a niche is viable or not. Like, have at it. And so we kind of do that and then see what kind of call volume that we can bring in. Right? If the average customer value is really low and we can't get enough calls, then obviously we're going to trash it.
Yeah.
Right? But I'll give you an example of a niche that nobody would think of that absolutely crushes it for us. It's mobile dent repair.
Ah, okay.
So a bunch of my students and myself have been absolutely crushing it with that offer. I have a site in Miami. If you Google Miami mobile dent repair, we come up #1. That site is and that niche is awesome because like the top competitors have like 10 or 12 backlinks according to Open Site Explorer or Majestic. Right? So like I can just do a blast through SendWire and I'm ranking. Like it's so easy, it's not even funny. Like I'll take a site, build it, and clone it, and put it up, and in 2 weeks I'm on the first page.
Mm-hmm.
And that site, you know, the client value, the average customer value isn't that high, but that site gets almost 100 calls a week now.
Oh wow, that adds up, man.
And it's a pure SEO play. You know, very very little time invested. And so for me, I think my answer is kind of different than everybody else's. I think you need to just kind of take 3 or 4 niches that you think that you'd like to go after and give it a shot.
Yeah, it seems like it's a balance between the average customer value and the actual volume you can generate with it.
And then obviously, you know, the invisible thing, or you know, the thing that you just really don't know either, is how are you even going to like dealing with that business owner?
Yeah.
Right? Like I pretty much trashed like every white collar person that we even worked with because I just hated dealing with them. Dentists, I can't stand dentists. They go to school and they think that they just have the right to sit in the chair and make, you know, and have $1 million+ business every year by doing nothing. They don't understand marketing. They'd rather go spend a huge amount of money and do mail drops. And if you figure out their average customer value and you figure out what they're paying in mail drops, it's crazy. I mean, they're paying $600 to $800 for a booked appointment. Okay, and we're able to bring them, you know, booked appointments for, let's say, $200 with AdWords. That's obviously like the most expensive that it's going to be. Like that's driving a ton of volume, and the dentists just don't get it. Why should I pay you $200? What do you mean? You're spending $600 over here and you won't give me $200?
Yeah.
They're just not a business savvy niche for the most part. And so I really don't like working with a lot of white collar people. I'd rather work with the contractors and the more blue collar people that will get off their butt for some money.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And they don't have near of a, you know, near as much of an entitled attitude either. You don't have to deal with gatekeepers or anything like that. And then the other thing is obviously just how competitive is it, right? And most of the contractor-based verticals and blue-collar stuff, guys, it's so non-competitive.
Oh yeah, someone's just wide open.
Yeah, that's a really good point about, you know, getting the expectations for how a client's going to treat you. We have almost 90 dental clients, and it can be a nightmare. I mean, there's definitely days I almost pull my hair out dealing with the clients, man. So yeah, that makes a really good point. But before
I just found that they don't like to really learn either. They take any constructive criticism typically just as criticism. So when we were doing lead gen for dentists, and we still do it for a couple of them that aren't a pain, but like we give them feedback and show them calls and say, hey, you know, Carla's doing a great job on the phone, but Nancy sucks. Here's some examples, and here's how she can clean it up. And they get upset with us.
Trying to improve their business.
Yeah,
I got that attitude.
like, you know, kind of know-it-all type of stuff. And so that's the big thing. And I think it goes past setting the expectation too. I mean, you can do a good job setting the expectation, but if they're kind of unwilling to listen and implement, you know, you're not going to be able to help them, and your pay, you know, as a marketer is obviously going to go down.
Yeah, it can be a nightmare. There's no doubt about it. It can be a terrible nightmare. But you know, before we jumped on, we were talking about a really interesting angle you have to you know, to kind of monetize. So you worry about one thing at a time. You're not worrying about chasing clients as well as fulfilling and everything else. So, you know, you have a really cool thing you do with the call networks. You want to share some more about that? That was awesome.
Yeah. So basically, this kind of correlates with what I was talking about earlier in terms of picking a niche. Like, we just pick a couple out of the air, do a little bit of research. If it makes sense on the surface, we go after it. So we build out a very basic site using our theme. We've got the process down to build out one of these sites in about an hour or two. All the content, all the logos, the banners, the offers, everything, buying the URL, getting WordPress set up, like the whole 9 yards. So our investment is very cheap. So if something looks good on the surface, we'll run right into actually grabbing, the domain and building out the site. The problem is when we started doing this, all of a sudden we have 10, 20, 30, 40 sites that are getting calls and we don't have customers for.
Right.
But they're not getting a boatload of calls. And for me, it's not worth my time and attention, my team's time and attention, to deal with a site that's getting 10, 12 calls a week and have to deal with one client for every one of those sites. Right? Because then you're working on fulfillment and getting the call volume up, and at the same time you're trying to work with the client, set the expectation, and then they're questioning you, Matt, why is the call volume not very good? I only got 3, booked appointments from you this month.
Yeah.
Like that sucks.
Yeah.
And so we started looking into pay-per-call networks. And that's what we're doing now is, when we're in the throwing shit against the wall phase and kind of scaling up, we work with pay-per-call networks and drive the calls actually through pay-per-call networks. So like Commission Junction, for example, has a pay-per-call network. And so we're driving the calls through those networks to get paid, right now, and to get paid while we're scaling up the sites, and while we're even trying to figure out, is it viable and is this something that we want to be in long term, or do we just want to make money from the pay-per-call networks and let that site kind of die? Not die. Once you do the work and the SEO, it's going to continue to bring in calls, but let's not focus on that niche maybe.
Yeah. What ways are you generating traffic for these sites?
Most of our stuff, at least, in the kind of testing phase, we are just doing Google organic maps and video.
Okay.
Video, everybody loves video, but videos don't get that much call volume. The great thing about video, though, is you can steal that position from your competition. So, I mean, that's really how I look at video. If I can get a couple calls a month from video, fantastic. I just want to make sure that I'm taking it away from my competitors.
Yeah, makes sense.
Right? So I just want to control as many assets on page one as possible. The videos, I don't care how fancy you make them or how good you make them, they just don't convert that well. And so for me, it's more about just taking spots from everybody else. So Google Organic and Google Maps. We absolutely love Google Maps. I have sites that have generated over the last 3 years 4, 5, 6,000 calls. Pushing anywhere from 60 to 100 calls a week just from Google Maps. And the cool thing about Google Maps, I'm sure you guys know, is like the shakeups don't really happen like they do in organic. Right, so you're not dealing with the hummingbirds and the penguins and all the Google slaps. Things are much more steady in Google Maps. And so for me personally, I don't think that there's a better ROI out there than Google Maps.
Yeah, Google Maps rock. How are you mitigating, and this could be, I understand if you don't drop the secret sauce here, but do you just use virtual offices for locations you don't actually have? Or, because I know they pulled the plug on MapMaker. That was really nice to get instant verifications, and I know everyone has their little tricks. If you don't want to get too deep, we're not going to hate you for it. I understand, but virtual offices do work.
The biggest thing is just think outside the box. Like, stop playing in the box. There's so many ways to get a virtual address, whether it be a virtual office, whether you pay somebody to use their address, whether you use a family member's address. I mean, there's so many ways. And people get so focused in on this that they end up doing nothing. So, my big tip is, just get an address that you can verify.
There you go.
Not that difficult. Stop being a pussy.
Good all-around advice.
It's really that simple. I mean, there's a million ways, and I can give you guys some ideas, but I stay away from USPS boxes and postal boxes and things like that, PO boxes. I stay away from all the big mom and pop virtual offices that are out there, Regis and Da Vinci and all those boys. The reason behind that is number one, money. They always want to put you in a contract. They require and charge you more money than everybody else. And so I look for mom and pop virtual office companies with less than 3 locations.
Oh, okay.
And I want a month-to-month deal. So no long-term contracts, because I'm going to call them up and either cancel or add on businesses. So I'll have it for a month, I'll get my postcard, and then I'll call them up and say, hey, now it needs to be this name. And so I just need flexibility in that regard. The other thing, I mean, there's obviously white hat techniques, there's gray hat, and just obviously black.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you guys are advocates of or how dark you want me to go, but there's some fishy ways that you can do it without even having an address.
Yeah.
Still.
We're the whatever it takes kind of guys, you know. If it brings in leads and generates money, it fits with LCT.
Okay. So first, have you guys seen Google requesting additional verification yet for your verification with Google Maps?
I have not yet, not with mine.
So if you get into some of the more lead gen-ish niches, they will ask you to send them more proof.
Yeah.
So for example, they'll say, send me a picture of your business sign, on your door or on the street.
Yeah.
And so you can literally photoshopping your logo onto a door, and they'll approve it. They don't really even look at quality. They're just trying to shut down people with that response, and it doesn't really go a whole lot further.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What you can do though is, and we figured this out kind of. So for a while, it seems like Google's got it under control now, but for a while we had problems actually getting Google's postcards. Sometimes we would never get them. Sometimes we get them in 4 weeks. Sometimes we get them in a week. Like, it was just very up and down. So what we did is we started setting reminders for 2 weeks in our calendar after we did the Google My Business submission, and we started calling up Google and saying, hey, I never got our verification card, and they'd verify it on the spot for us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, nice stuff. That's killer right
there. So the killer part is they don't ask you any real questions, or do too much verification to make sure that you actually have that address.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to ask you some questions about, like, what are the local restaurants or businesses. They're going to ask you about your actual submission and pull some stuff from Google My Business, and that's it. So you can literally pick basically almost any address out of the hat, go set it up in Google My Business, call them up 2 weeks later, and verify your listing.
That's crazy you're saying you can just put something on a door, like a fake sign thing like that, and it works. That's awesome.
I do remember one of my locksmith clients ran into that. He had a home office. Locksmith's a really heavily policed niche anyway, but they he had a home office. They're like, can you take pictures of your signage? And he called me. I was like, yeah, man, I don't know what to tell you. Locksmith's a little bit tough like that. But that's
so
good stuff,
definitely
man.
Locksmith is a big one. We play around with the locksmith niche just to kind of keep an eye on the competition. So like, I think we rank like number 1 or number 2 in Miami for almost every locksmith term. But it's kind of just a little playground and a test bed for us. Definitely a very competitive and very Google monitored local, kind of niche.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's lots and lots of ways, guys, to get virtual offices. I have students of mine that are renting public storage, and they're sending it to public storage.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
there's also
that's
companies.
clever.
There's also companies out there that that basically work with a lot of the big virtual office companies, and they're like mailbox companies that sublease from the virtual office companies.
Okay.
So it would basically be like me going and signing up with Regis and getting a bulk discount deal on, let's say, 60 major cities in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then being able to sublease that to you and say, okay, Matt, now you can use any of these addresses that you want.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so
cool.
if you do your research, like, there's a million ways to get Google addresses. Go pay somebody on Craigslist, family members, friends, do some exchanges with people in the community. Like,
Yeah.
just stop being a pussy.
No, that's good
Yeah.
stuff, man, because I agree. Those things generate a ton of leads, and that's really good stuff.
And
Thanks for that.
there's no reason to. The other thing is that you can't do more than one site, even in every city. So if you find something that's working really well, go find another address. Do it again. Build
Yeah.
out another site. We have some sites that and some.
Yeah.
But that's good stuff, man. I guess let's end on something. I know everyone hates this question, but it's like if you were just starting out, right? You wanted to get your first online dollars, and I hate when they say, like, if you're just starting out with $100, that's corny. You need to find a way to get more than $100 to invest in yourself and your business. But say you're starting out lower budget, maybe $1,000, $2,000. You want to invest in yourself. What's a quick, actionable way you tell someone to get off their ass and get moving? Besides just get off your ass and get moving, what would a good game plan be?
So personally, for me, I would want to know, like, is the marketer brand new? Right? So is it somebody that's like just got into local, has no SEO experience, like is just completely green, right? Or are they somebody that's been in the space, maybe following, maybe had a job before, and have kind of know the ropes, or not?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Because I think that lead gen should be the ultimate play for everybody long term.
Right.
Right? But I think that there's a big lesson here in going out and selling clients on services and figuring out how to do this shit and getting paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like that's my personal belief. Like, get your clients to help you and go learn everything in and out and then start doing lead gen.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense, man.
I mean, it's like going to college for free.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's how I made it. In every single product that I would want to buy, if I thought so, my rule personally for buying any product or any course or software or anything is I have to be able to implement it in the next 2 weeks, or I don't buy it. I don't care if lifetime's going away or it's a charter deal or what it is, right? That's the rule for me. And so if I can implement it, if I get past that step, the next question is, what clients do I have that I can go charge this for? Who can I sell this to that's going to pay for it and make me actually sit my ass down and figure it out?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right? And like, what's that money? How long is it going to take me? What do I need to do in order for it to be worth my time?
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
That's personally kind of my criteria. But let's say somebody's doing stuff already. Let's say that they're a semi-successful local marketer. They're making at least $5 or $6 grand a month recurring, and they want to start investing into lead gen.
Right.
Okay, and let's just say that it's $1,000 since you threw out that number. What I would say is to build 4 or 5 niches. Okay, it's only going to cost you about $200 a site with hosting and domain registration, building out all the content on the site, getting backlinks. I mean, the whole 9 yards, citations, everything. It's only going to be like $200.
Right.
Right. So go build 4 or 5 sites. Use the pay-per-call networks. Use ACT or something else to forward the calls through, so you can get a really good understanding of those niches to figure out which ones you actually want to then go and scale.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that angle, man. That's a really good angle. So
I mean, the best part, guys, about local is you're not in general affiliate marketing competing with every other affiliate marketer out there. Mm-hmm. We're competing with an AC repair technician.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like, right. If we can't fucking beat them, like, we shouldn't be in this space.
Yeah.
Completely agree, man.
So that's it for me. I mean, I think that So many of us overcomplicate this space, and it's not really that complicated. Our job is to beat the other marketers out there, and luckily in local, like, we don't have to compete with hundreds of thousands of affiliate marketers going after get your X back products on ClickBank or whatever.
Right.
You know, we're competing against people that have no idea what they're doing. It's like taking candy from a baby.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Good advice for that, especially in an industry where everyone says, "Hey, go after the higher dollar, go after the gold," and it makes
The
it.
problem is just, you know, it's going to be much more competitive. I mean, you can, but I'd rather see somebody get some results like super quick.
Yeah.
Because as soon as they get some results, they get the phone ringing, they start making even a little bit of money, it's just going to jack them all up. They're going to get their endorphins going. They're going to get excited, and they're going to want to do more. If you start out and you go after a personal injury attorney in your city, I mean, come on, dude. It's going to take you some time to rank. Right? You're going to be 6 months down the line before you start to see any real type of volume, and hopefully you've stuck with it for 6 months.
Yeah.
Even see the return then.
Right.
I mean, most people's time attention is definitely not 6 months long.
Right. Yeah,
I have ADHD like crazy. I couldn't stand a 6 month timeline to see if something was working.
Yeah.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, it's a long commitment, compared to something you can gain a lot faster. So, yeah, that's kick-ass advice, man, for sure. So, before we go, you want to shout out to the audience? Where can they follow you? Where can they hear more from you? Shout your blogs out, your platform, whatever you have going on, man. I'm sure a lot of people are already following you, but it's
man, for sure.
Definitely good shit.
So digitaltriggers.io is our blog, and that's where we're really focusing a ton of time and energy and attention on interviewing people, as well as me coming out with content all the time. We talked about Google Maps and how we're crushing it with that. Like, I just put out a video a couple weeks ago. I think we're up to like 8,000 views now, of me breaking down what I'm doing for Google Maps, like showing you guys all the call volume keywords I'm ranking for. So super transparent, trying to give everybody the goods. And so that's the best place to follow me, digitaltriggers.io.
Awesome.
Obviously, we have our call tracking platform, analytic call tracking, the new local business theme, and obviously our big dog would be Sendwire, which is taking a lot of time and resources. We're doing over 500,000 posts every 24 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of server load.
So the server load alone, that server bill is probably more than, I don't know, 90% of us even make in this space. But it's cool seeing all the results coming through there. But it's definitely a big commitment and time resource on our end.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Thanks for taking the time to jump on. It's definitely some gold nuggets. A lot of cool angles we don't talk about a lot in LCT, and I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks, guys, for having me.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks a lot, everyone. Joe Troyer, digitaltriggers.io. Go check him out.
Peace.